seeing as it's been a little while, I've had some time to rethink how I want to do things, and my mishmash approach was not working very well. I was not very motivated to do whatever I wanted to do at the time, which sounds kind of dumb, but here we are. So I need to structure things a little bit differently and finally kick off a project I've been wanting to try for a while. I've hummed and hawed about this so many times because I was honestly afraid of looking dumb as shit. But we're gonna do it anyway because whatever, why not? So going forward, we're gonna have one stream a week, I think, dedicated to building a game together. We're gonna go through that shortly, explain what expectations should be on that and what they shouldn't be, and just lay out everything I'm gonna do. As well, the idea behind those quote game dev streams will be that these streams will be broken up into videos to then put on YouTube, just so we can keep a record of everything and as a living devlog. Beyond that, I think we're also going to dedicate one stream per week as well to fighting games, most likely Fridays, because you just can't pass up Fighting Game Fridays or FGC Fridays because it's the perfect name. Usually at the end of the week as well, I have more time to spend, I can play a little bit later, I can enjoy it rather than being rushed and trying to get through as many sets as possible before going to sleep for the evening. If we follow our old schedule that you will leave one freebie stream to watch at the end to do basically whatever I want, so we're going to look at dedicating that to something else. Maybe try not to bounce between games so much, because I believe in the last 2 months we've started Parasite Eve, we've started Final Fantasy 7, we started Darkwood, we started a lot of games. So going forward, I think we'll go ahead and finish Final Fantasy 7, which will be my kind of minimal commentary thing, just to appreciate the lurkers out there, people who don't necessarily want to hear my voice, want to enjoy the game sounds and the visuals of Final Fantasy 7 or whatever game I'm playing at the time. So that'll likely be my midweek one, because Wednesday I'm usually tired as hell. I want to just chill out and play a game, and what better than to just sit here and enjoy it with the rest of you. I think that's about it for what the channel is going to be going forward. What those days are will be up in the air. Obviously, the fighting games will be on a Friday. The Wednesday one we'll stick with for the most part. I think the game dev one is going to be a weekend only thing, because we can play during the day or do stuff during the day when I'm a little bit more awake, a little bit more time, a little bit more freedom to get stuff done. Definitely look out for those. Yeah, so I guess let's jump right into the whole game dev stuff, what I've been thinking about, what I've been working on, and explain what's going on. So the first thing I want to do in this segment, we'll call it, is explain what you should expect from me and what you shouldn't expect from me. So let's go through what you shouldn't expect from me. So the first thing we're going to say is that I am not a professional developer or a professional programmer. I am not extremely well versed in the tools I'm using, so this is going to be a learning experience for both of us. This means that sometimes there's going to be questions that I'm going to have to go and look up and try to figure out the answer for. That means that we're going to have to watch some videos, figure some tutorials out, and just generally make a bunch of mistakes. I do have a background in computer science, so I've been programming for probably about 8 years. So a lot of programming issues will likely be less than other issues. So to recap on that one, not a professional programmer, not an artist in any way. I'm pretty terrible at art. I have a couple assets that I've built to test things out. We'll go through and look at those in a little bit here as I go through the programs we're going to use. I will most likely not be doing a ton of the art on stream because I am kind of ass at it right now. So that's going to take a lot of extra time off stream to get to a point where it's not going to look like crayon drawings. And not in like the artsy kind of aesthetic crayon drawings, in the oh no, what have I done crayon drawings. I'm not a sound designer. So that's going to be something we're either going to have to find free assets or farm out, or that'll be another long process to learn. Yeah, I guess for the most part, the last expectation to manage on this one is that this is not intended to be a commercial product unless it turns out really good. It's going to be my first major game. Probably not going to turn out super well. You don't make your magnum opus on try number 1, so don't expect that. So what about what we want to expect? Well, obviously you want to expect a good time. I'm going to try to keep it light. I'm going to have fun with it. We're going to make mistakes. Yeah, expect learning. Learning's the big one. This is going to be a learning process, as I just went over. I kind of want to do it mostly on stream because I think that would be a cool way to diarize and log the whole process, but obviously if I'm only doing 2 to 3 hours a week, we're never going to get anywhere if I just do it on stream. So any kind of off stream stuff I will keep a log of as well. Expect YouTube videos out of it. I'm looking to turn these videos into just like the log and kind of a light tutorial system, so people who follow in my footsteps will have that knowledge ahead of time. Let's put that under here just as a big asterisk though. This is not a tutorial series. That would imply that I know what I'm doing, and that's a big nope on that one. If you're coming in looking at the type of game, expect pixel art, because I dig that aesthetic, and I get that it's a little bit overused right now. So, you know, deal with it. Expect game design discussions and not good spelling. I have spent most of my life playing games, which does not make me a good game designer by any means necessary, but will help color my decisions for things I've enjoyed, things I haven't enjoyed. Just in general, I will be applying things that I've seen, things that I like, trying to build those into this. And I'll keep this as kind of a living document, so, you know, let's just put it wherever it comes in under the dev. So, all right. I think that about sums up the expectations for this kind of project. I was really looking forward to it. So I think we'll hop right in now into what kind of software I'm going to be using. Anybody in the know, per se, who are familiar with any kind of development software will probably have seen what engine I have open, which is what we'll primarily be using, which is the Godot or Godot engine, depending on who you ask. I tend to call it Godot because I like how it sounds rather than the proper Godot, but you know, it is what it is. If you're not familiar with it at all, it's a free open source development engine. It does both 2D and 3D, has its own built-in scripting language, which we'll go over in a second here, as well. It's really lightweight, which is one of the big draws for me, is you can download this and have it up and running in about a minute. Anytime I've ever played with Unity or Unreal Engine or numerous other ones, it's always click, start the thing, go make a sandwich, come back, hope it's up. Obviously those are way more geared towards more commercial building, bigger designers, more customizability, which is an arguable difference between these two. Yeah, I like it because of how fast it is, how quick it is, how lightweight it is, and generally I just like supporting open source, and you should too. Open source software, if you're not familiar, is software that anybody can look into. So if we opened up the GitHub for this, which I don't have right now, you could see every bit of code and development that has gone into this. Anybody can open up an account, contribute to the development. It all gets mashed together and builds an ultimately better product. This also leads to extensibility. People can build add-ons or interface nodes or anything like that into this and extend the engine beyond what it has, quote, out of the box. So definitely take a look at it. I will throw the link in the description when this goes on YouTube, just so this can be on there. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say about it. We'll come back to it in a little bit and go over exactly what it is. But other than that, let's move on to the other thing. So for art, I'm going to be using Aseprite, which previously was a free software. I believe now it's only the paid version. You could probably still find the free version. It's just considerably less featured than the current one. I got my tiles in here and we'll see that. That's not the one I wanted. That's the one. So this is I like the aesthetic of this program because it itself is mostly pixel arty. So if you look, you can see everything's in a pixel art font. All the tools and stuff are pixel art. Everything just looks like it belongs for this. It is feature built to handle pixel art. Not that it can't touch other things, since I've used it to touch up other pictures, but it is built with this in mind. As always, I will also put a link to that in the description, and you can go take a look at that. I used it through Steam because I wanted to track how many hours I was using on it, but you can get it standalone. Pretty relatively cheap, and if you do decide you want to try it, you can find the free version. Definitely give it a shot. You won't have all the features as discussed, but you'll have enough to see if it's for you or not. Other alternative people have used Photoshop, or GIMP is another big one, GIMP. You can get that one going. Definitely take a look at there. Plenty of free software for pixel art and art in general. I'm going to be using just a mouse and a keyboard. I don't have any kind of drawing tablet because frankly I'm shit with them. And that's not necessarily a skill I'm looking to build at the moment, but I'm leaving myself open to that. As you can see, I have a couple tiles I've built, which is the extent of my decent looking knowledge. Even this was courtesy of Adam Eunice, somebody you should also check out, who does game development on Twitch and on YouTube. Following some of his pixel art guides, I was able to figure out the process of building these and then begin modifying them so that they can be used. Alright, moving beyond that, we have Tiled, which is another free software. You can see where I'm going with all of this. It lets you import files, so specifically like I've imported the tiles that we've built. And if your tile maps are separated or built in such a way that it can see that, it will go through and build them into tiles. So then you can, grab the things you built, use them as separate tiles, and it properly puts them in, except for that one tends to replace them instead of doing it over. Because it's a layered setup like you would see on most of the image editors, like we would have seen in Aseprite, you could build extra layers to basically increase or decrease the elevation. So right now I'd have this layer. You could create another layer which would then go over top of this, which would, instead of just replacing the tiles I'm using, would apply over them. So then you could build buildings, multi-layer, multi-tiered maps, stuff like that. This outputs a tile map, which you could then bring back into Godot, and then you're laughing. For development wise, that's basically what we'll be using. If I need to any editing of any specifically different code, I do have Visual Studio Code. We won't need to use that much because with Godot, it has its own built-in editor, which is kind of nice because it also supports its own Python-based editing script. It's a fairly robust programming language with a pretty kick-ass API. You put a script in here. I just have a base project I use, so this is the title I use for just about any generic fantasy or whatever project. It won't be the final title. Let's name it main because we already have a node. Yeah, pretty fully functioned editor. lets you pick anything, has all the autofill complete and features you'd think. So like if you do whatever, you can pick from any of the stuff. If you don't know it, or maybe you misspelled it, or for whatever reason, it has its autofill and its IntelliSense, I guess is what it's called. I don't know if it's actually Microsoft related or not, but IntelliSense. You're not limited to that. You can use C#. You could realistically use C++, and I believe there's a couple other. I think there's Visual Script. There's a visual version of this. I've never been big about that because I wasn't taught that in school, so I like just programming this way. So I guess that's gonna roll into our overview of Godot. Godot. I'm gonna be consistent with that, I promise. So if you're not familiar with it, Godot is a node-based or scene-based programming platform. So everything you do will be based off of a node. So in this case, for a base, open this up. I have a base scene already. My main loop of my game will run in this main, which has a base node, a 2D node. The base usually depends on what you want to do. So for this case, I'm just doing a 2D game and I just wanted a node, and that is the highest possible, like in the node tree you have. You can do that. There are tons of nodes for everything. So you could have like spatial nodes, which cover a lot of your movement, collision, stuff like that. Control nodes. Usually you have your text and stuff in here, or organizational. You can have containers for different sets of nodes, which I'll go over in a later time. Just, yeah, all sorts of fantastic nodes in here. Everything is built off of. Every single thing will come back to a node. When you have a bunch of nodes, so let's say we have main, add a child node, and let's add a control node, and let's just do label. Whatever, it's here, it exists. This is now under main, so it's a child of main. If you're familiar with any kind of tree-based programming or tree-based anything, you'll understand how roots and leaves and such work. If you wanted to create something else, like let's create a new scene, let's make it a 2D node, and let's make a child node of it, which is a let's make it a sprite. So this is a character. When you save this, and we'll just name it test, it becomes a scene. Scenes are self-contained anything. That's the beauty, is a scene can be anything. So if you look at the Godot, I swear to God, I'm terrible at this. If you look at the Godot documentation, you'll see everything is broken down into scenes. So you could have a house scene, which then has a door, a window, and a floor, and a ceiling, and walls. Each of those can be scenes. The door has a keyhole and a doorknob. Those can be scenes. If you're looking at a first-person shooter, your gun's a scene. Your gun shoots off a missile. That missile is another scene. Everything can be broken down into that outlook, which is kind of how you have to think about it when you're working with this. A scene can then have, as you might have guessed, an attached script. So you can attach the script to your scene, which will do things. This is where you can handle most of everything you need to do. Technically, you don't necessarily need to do any kind of scripting. The AP or the basic tools that they have via the inspector and via the control panel over here can kind of handle everything in a more visual manner. So like you can change where it is, where it's anchored, anything you want. You can apply, whether it's visible, you can apply different materials. So if you wanted it to look like something, let's say you have a material or a texture you have from Blender or anything else, then you can apply it in here, which will apply it to the thing you've got. I like, again, the programming because of my computer science background. Signals are something we'll go over at another time as well. They are very important for talking between scenes and nodes. And if you're familiar with the term messaging system, it'll kind of work like that. Yeah, I think as a generally broad overview, that kind of covers everything. Do note that when you're programming, you can put in the script a line that will then add whatever information or box or toggle you want to add to this inspector. You can add it through the programming for whatever node you custom, because you don't necessarily have to use what's included with them. You could technically make your own nodes. So as I was saying with the scene, you could then take your scene. I'm gonna have to remember how to do that. Like I said, this is a learning thing. Once upon a time, you used to be able to, yeah, okay. That is what I thought. So I just didn't select the right spot. You can add that scene as a node under the main tree. So this contains everything that test scene had. This will have the node 2D base, animated sprite. Then you could, so in that sort of way, that's how you can build a world out. You have that house. Then you add your walls and your floor and your ceiling scenes as nodes, and so on and so forth. You can break it down as abstract as you like, or go as super specific as you want. I think for covering all of the software I'm using, that's about it. If you're curious about what I'm going to be using for the YouTube videos and for miscellaneous stream stuff, I have been using Natron, which is a free equivalent or alternative to After Effects, and DaVinci Resolve, which is a free equivalent to... I'm actually not sure what the Adobe video editing software is, if they have one. It's a video editing software. As well, I also use OBS because it's the best. Don't use Streamlabs. They kind of did a dick move, and while they've made up for it, still. I think for the general rundown, that's pretty good. Just going through this one more time. I guess I did say it wasn't a tutorial, and then I kind of gave a tutorial, so that's neat. I think beyond that, yeah. Introduces my project all right. Let's talk a little bit about what the project is going to be. So I'm looking to make, yeah, I know, everybody does this. I'm basically looking to do a tactical RPG in the Final Fantasy Tactics style, or Jeanne d'Arc if you're familiar with that ancient ass PSP game. It is in a world that I've kind of built out. I've been writing for the last 8 months, building out a setting that I've been trying to use in different forms of media to kind of see how it plays out. It's a cyberpunk inspired, but kind of cyberpunk fantasy. Not quite like Shadowrun, so you're not going to have that quite high level of fantasy, but you know, you'll see when I start building out everything. So far, this is translated fairly well into book form, so I've been working on writing something like that to see how it goes. A tabletop game using the Savage Worlds system from Pinnacle, take a look at that. Has also been really productive for getting that going, but that's also a system built for just throwing anything into it. I don't really think this is the best place to go through the game, potentially, like all the different systems I'm looking at, because those are not solidified, so we'll probably dedicate that to its own stuff. But yeah, I think with that, that'll be the end of that portion. I don't think we're going to start on anything today. I do think that it's something I'd like to continue for sure.